Welcome to this episode of Inspiring Talk. We are going to talk in this episode with Celeste Campbell. Welcome, Celeste.
Thank you, Michaela. Nice to be here with you.
Nice to have you here. We are talking about taking the leap and to dare to do something different. And I know that you have done it many times, but tell us about your background.
Okay, so I was born in South Africa and I've always been a bit of a nomadic spirit. So I've traveled around the world quite a lot. And I think that one of the things for me that makes me feel the most alive is when I get into a new environment, which is completely unknown. And every part of my being and my senses are kind of like in high alert because it's about kind of like almost recreating your life. And I find that to be really exciting. Okay, so I'm also I'm here in Spain right now. So I've landed up in Spain at the moment, and I have been here on and off for about 15 years. And I'm happy to be here. And yeah.
So tell us about maybe the first leap you took, or
yeah. I think my first leap would have been when I would have been in my early 20s, when I would have taken my backpack on my back and off I would have gone from South Africa into Europe and dared to try and see what the rest of the world was looking like at that young age, and doing the Eurail pass and traveling to different countries and exploring the different museums. That was quite a lot of fun, but it was not I think that was not as exciting as my next leap, which would have been maybe fast forward some, I think it was like maybe 9 years later. And at this point, I was living in South Africa and I was working in a job that I had been in, an industry that I had been in for maybe 8 or 9 years. And I was very established in the job, and it was a good job and it was a good career option. And I was very settled and life felt good. But the thing is that I actually felt like when I was going to work, I was essentially becoming like a hamster in a rotation wheel. And I was just basically working, going home exhausted and earning my salary and paying my rent and my bills. And then I thought, hold on a second, this is not so fun anymore. And I thought to myself, well, I do need to make some changes over here. And there was one particular day that I was at work and I went to visit one of my friends in one of the offices nearby. And I said to her, hi, how are things going? And she had this huge, big smile on her face and she was just like beaming. And I said, what's happening? And she said, my cousin and I have decided to leave the job and we've decided to travel around the world. And we found this amazingly good ticket, as far as like it's a really economical ticket. And you would have 10 stops and you go around the world. And I thought, this is a no-brainer. I said, can I come along? And she said, for sure you can come along. And I was just like, yes. Suddenly I felt alive again. And I said, great, count me in. And then I went hopping and skipping down the corridor and I went into another friend of mine's office. I was obviously not very busy that day. And I walked into her office and she said to me, why are you smiling so much? And I said, well, this is what's happened and I'm going to travel around the world and we're going to leave the company and we're all going to go travel. And she said, well, you can't go without me. so she, together with my other two friends, and we all resigned at the same time. And we had this big farewell party at the company. And next thing you know, I mean, we sold what we had. We sold cars. We sold everything. We were all single ladies, so there were no children or anything involved. And we then, packed our backpacks again and off I went down. So we flew to the Caribbean. That was our first stop. And the intention was to travel around the world and work as we went around the world. And we landed up in Antigua, and it was just suddenly from one moment where I was sitting in an office space and I was working and stressed and bored and thinking, no, hold on, this can't be right. And next minute there I was lying on the beach in my bikini sipping pina colada with my friends in the sun, and it was just like, gosh, isn't that a good idea? Didn't we do a good thing there? And yeah, so that was a really, really big leap and a very interesting leap, because in the first few weeks, of course, it was really fun. And then the reality of like life settles in, and you kind of think to yourself, oh gosh, how am I going to make money? And is this serious enough? And so we had some doubts. But I don't know, life just takes over. And it's kind of like, if you allow it, it seems to be that the right things happen for you. And I landed up being in a situation where I met a couple who had a boat in Antigua, and I landed up getting a job working for them. And suddenly my whole life changed, and I would have been, for the next, like maybe, I don't know, ages, I was working with them in a completely different foreign environment. So yeah, I think the leaps are definitely worth their while, and have definitely shaped my life, because I've dared to do something different.
So if I understand you correctly, you went with your friends to the Caribbean, but then you split up because you stayed with a couple you were working for.
That's correct. And we all kind of like landed off going in our own different directions. This one fell in love and stayed on a hammock, and she probably still is there somewhere. And the other friend of mine, she landed up, we all took different like directions, and it was really lovely that we all went together, and it was a really fun time, but all our lives kind of like were able to move on in different directions.
Yeah. Before when you were in the Caribbean and you said that you have had your doubts, did you ever regret that you took the leap?
Oh no, never. I think that I don't think I've had, no, never. I think that you get into situations where you think, oh, had I stayed in that secure job, whatever, I could have been, like now settling into like a more, I don't know, comfortable. I don't know. No, not at all. I think I would have died of boredom and died of the monotony of my life. I think that the excitement that comes with taking the leap and the reinvention of yourself keeps you alive and keeps you moving forward. So I can't regret the changes that have taken place in myself, and what the new doors and the new opportunities that came my way because I took that leap.
Yeah.
I think it's a very, very vital thing to do. And I've seen other friends of mine, or I've seen people in my life who've stayed and really not ever taken leaps, and not ever, I mean, it's not to say that it's for everyone at all, because I've seen people who've stayed in their lives and settled down and had children and done the kind of like thing. And when I come into their lives, I think, well, this is what they seem happy enough, but it's not in my personality to stay still for too long.
Yeah. And when you take the leap like you did, you went with your friends to the Caribbean. That was sort of the first stepping stone. And then when you split up, you had other people taking you to the next stepping stone.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I think it's about like, you kind of like, there's that saying that goes like, if you close one door, the next door is able to open. And it's very much like that. If you're staying in an environment, in a space where you're in, and you're just doing what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. That's how the saying goes, basically. And so when you're taking a new leap and you're in a new environment, there are new people that come in, and you're attracting a new type of people, and there's new possibilities. And so then you're opening new doors, and then there's new, it just keeps like evolving. So there's definitely, that comes along with the way.
Yeah. And also you grow as a person yourself. When you dare to take the first step, then you can look back and say, well, I took that step. So it's easier to go ahead.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
So what happened after you had worked a while for the
couple? Yeah, I think that after that was quite some time again. Look, I mean, I've jumped around all over the world, and then I landed up at one point where I was like, oh, I'll try something else, and I landed up in New York, and I was doing a chef's training course, and then I was in England, and I was working there, and I was on a little bicycle in the park, and I was working over there, and then I was kind of like in Sweden at some point in time, and I was working in a company over there. So I think I've jumped back and forth and all over the place. But my most recent leap was basically starting my own business, because I think all the way through, I've basically been working as an employee in a company. And in that time, it's always been the sense of like, well, most of my life seems to be shifting most of the time. So this is the only source of like security, is to have a job and to have a salary and an income and all those kind of good things in place. But I think I landed up in a company, the most recent company, where I just felt like, wow, I mean, I give so much and I put so much energy in, and it just feels like a case of, it's too stressful. I would rather be doing things that actually matter to me. And so I landed up in Sweden at this point. I landed up in a forest in Sweden. Don't ask. I landed up in a forest in Sweden, and I was frolicking amongst the flowers and the bees and the birds. And we were looking for products to clean the cabin. And basically we were looking to see how we can clean it in the most sustainable way, because I suddenly realized, everything that we were doing in our home to clean the house, the liquids and the gray water that we had to get rid of, I couldn't necessarily throw it down into the ground, because I knew that there were roots and worms and bugs and microbes, and I didn't want to just be putting anything into the earth. So we had a little look around and we found a product that was really interesting. It's a company in Sweden called Pure Effect. And it's a really lovely company because it's all based on cleaning products that are using biotechnology. So it all works with microbiomes. So it's all the microorganisms that are used. So for example, just like you have the microbiomes in the forest that are breaking down and degrading the leaves, they're now used in these cleaning products too. These bacteria are being used to clean and break down the organic matter on your surfaces. And it was a wonderful solution. So I was like, oh my God, this is really lovely. And this is working in tune with my personality and how I believe the world should be. And so was cleaning the house with it, was super happy, and then approached the company and said, wow, I mean, like, I'd love to go ahead and kind of like, take this to Spain, bring it back with me here and see how we can kind of launch it over here, because I think it would be really wonderful to change the way that people are thinking about cleaning. So that's it. That's where I'm at the moment.
So you could say that you have taken the leap, taking your friends with you to the Caribbean to explore the world and see what's out there. Yeah. And maybe some people listening to this think that that's for young people. You do it in your youth. But you have also taken the leap from your values and started your company when you were looking for the clean product.
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely. I think of course, it's easy when you're young to take crazy leaps because you don't risk so much. And I think that when you get older, it requires so much more courage because you don't really have that safety net to fall back on. And I think that you have to think about like the critical things, like how you're going to retire and where the money's going to come on and who's going, how you're going to pay the bills. So they're very real things. And I think being self-employed and working for yourself, you very much more having to motivate yourself and really be driven and have a lot more patience and perseverance. And I think that it's not something I regret, because I think that when I do have wins along the way now, it's kind of like, it's such a great relief for me, because I think that it's like a huge breakthrough for myself from an accomplishment point of view. Yeah, but I think I don't think I'll ever stop leaping. I think that this is definitely something that's keeps me alive, and I think it'll keep anybody alive, because you're having to force yourself into a position where you're rethinking things and you're keeping yourself on your toes and you're keeping yourself moving forward. So definitely, I was in Cape Town at one stage, and we were in I was visiting a friend of mine, and South Africa had a bit of a drought experience, and it was a really harsh time because we were suddenly aware that there was all this beautiful ocean around us with all this water, but the actual running water and the drinking water was in like really, really short supply. And so what we had to do then is become very aware of the way that we were using water. And we literally landed up with like like you had take a little bucket and you would put it between your legs, and then you would get under the shower and open the tap and quickly wet yourself down, and then hope that any water that would fall down would land up in the bucket, and then switch off the tap, and then Yeah, you laugh. It was damn hard. Then you take your little bit of soap and you have a little wash down, and then you somehow kind of like manage to use the bucket water to like rinse that off, and somehow, it was hell. And then you take that little bucket of water and then you put it at the toilet so that you can use it to flush rather than having to waste any water unnecessarily. Or even things like, you know, doing laundry. I mean, of course, you would never do laundry unnecessarily. And then if you were using detergent, you must make sure that it's biodegradable detergent so that the water could be used, or the gray water that was coming out of the machine could then be used to water the plants. So for me, that made so much sense when I found Pure Effect and I saw how much you could save, for example, on doing laundry by not using so much water and by using products that were so biodegradable. It was like everything was perfectly aligned to who I was and my values. So definitely, I mean, moving forward in this planet and in this world, I think that the world seems to be getting hotter and hotter. And here in Spain, I mean, look how hot it was last summer. And I think that water shortages are going to become fairly more, a lot more common at least. And so products like Pure Effect are all about saving water, saving on resources, and saving the planet in the long run. And if I can do my little bit towards saving the planet, then I'm super happy.
Yeah. It really aligns with your values and the trends in the world, the climate change. And I'm sure people are more open to these kind of products than before, when we didn't have these climate changes and hot weather.
Yeah, I think, Michaela, I think when it comes to people, I think we're stuck, and that's actually quite an interesting thing. I think people get stuck in their lives. They get stuck in the way they think. They get stuck in their patterns and their belief systems. And I think it's easier to stay in those places than to move out and to make those leaps. So whether it's a physical leap from like one country to another, or from one town to another, or from one job to another, or from one relationship to another, those leaps are as important. But when it comes to things like shifting your mental space, you know, when it changes your way of doing things, you can say to somebody, look, I've got this amazing product and it's all about, it's bringing in good bacteria into an environment, and it's really wonderful to keep this like healthy environment, and it's really good when you do the washing away, the liquid goes back into the earth and it doesn't harm the planet. And then the reaction is, oh, no, I don't want to clean my house because I want to just use antibacterial products because that's what I know. And it's just like, dude, wake up, because antibacterial products are so wrong. And the whole message that was given there was so wrong. We don't want to take away bacteria. Bacteria is everywhere and all around us and in all our water and everywhere, in our mouths, on our hands, everywhere. We don't want to take away bacteria. There's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. And really only such a teeny small percentage of the bacteria is bad that is worth getting rid of. But the idea is that if you're bringing in good bacteria into your home space, then just like you do in your gut, for your gut health, having an environment where there's a lot of good bacteria means that there's less space for bad bacteria. So you kind of do want to be cleaning with good bacteria, like you want to be doing in your gut. So the point that I'm making is that people get so stuck in their headspace and they get so stuck in their thought system. So to take a product like Pure Effect and say, this is how you should be doing cleaning, or this is how we see the cleaning to be moving forward. It's like a new generation product. Some people are not prepared to make those leaps. Some people will stick to what they know and what they always feel safe in. And other people will be more open. Gee, I think it's a good idea. Let me try that. I'd like to see how it works. Oh, this is really nice, and open and move with the flow rather than being stuck in their little blocks, in their little safe zones. So
yeah. And if you like to know more about Pure Effect, we will put up the link to the website so you can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. About being stuck, I was talking about when you're young, you want to explore things, or you have values, you want to align yourself with a product or company. But also it can be that when you were working in South Africa and you were thinking, oh, this is not it. And you have this feeling you have to do something else.
Yeah.
And I think, sorry. you feel that you have to do something else, and it's a nagging feeling that you have inside of you. And maybe it is to start a company, or to move, or to get out of a relationship. And I agree, it's difficult to take the step. But what would you say is the big gain to do the leap, to take the leap?
I think evolution. I think the evolution of the soul, or the being, or you. I think that, you know, we can resist change as much as we want to, but it's happening whether we like it or not. So, for example, you can be in a situation, let's take a relationship, or let's take a job scenario. You know, you can be there and you can think, okay, I'm just going to stay here and I'm just going to do this and it's going to be like this. And maybe years and years will pass, but you're getting older, and maybe there's a financial, you know, like a collapse in the economy or something, and suddenly a job that you thought was so safe suddenly goes bang, and like maybe you're in tourism and bang, then the COVID comes along and suddenly you don't, and it's like, what? This could never have happened. And life kind of like pushes you out, and think changes are going to take place. So I think that the more you allow change to happen, and the more that you allow those things to come, the more that you allow for things to unfold. So I think when you then in a situation is suddenly where life has forced you out of a job, and suddenly, you know, COVID's come along and you're in a situation where you don't have a job, and then you're now having to find a new identity, a new job, a new whatever. But fast forward 3 years down the line, and suddenly you're a new person. You've found a new direction. You've maybe tried something that you never tried before. And you look back and you think, gosh, I'm so grateful that that happened, because I'm now another person, or I've now found a new love or a new passion in my life, or I've found a new source of way to be in my life. So the evolution, the way that we can grow and develop, so that you get to your deathbed at the end of your life and you look back and you think, wow, this is what I've done and this is how I've evolved. I've never just done what was possibly expected of me. I've been able to thrive in my life.
Wow. I get inspired to take the leap.
Oh, super. Good.
But thank you so much, Celeste, for talking to me about your leap and your experiences. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Michaela.
Thank you. And if you want to know more about Pure Effect, we will put up the link below, and you can read about the company's products.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.